right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for making it for this quick meeting. The only agenda item that we have, well, actually, let me start from the beginning and read our mission statement, and I think we need to take roll. So let's take roll first.
All right. Adam,
I am here.
Christine,
Here.
Emily,
Here.
Justin,
Here.
I am here, and Ted.
Here.
Perfect. We have 6, so we do have a quorum.
Perfect. And the mission statement, it is the mission of Montessori Peaks Academy to achieve high standards of individual excellence by guiding the whole student through an exceptional learning experience based on the educational philosophy of Maria Montessori. So the only agenda item is considering changes to our bylaws. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review those. We could go through them, go through the red lines one by one and discuss those, or we could just take questions. I'm open to thoughts on how we want to do this.
I think it'd be good just to do a quick summary of what the changes mean, just for the record here.
Sure. All right, let me go ahead and share the document, actually. Maybe that'll be the most efficient way to do that. Bear with me as I open that. All right, are you all seeing this?
We are, yes.
Okay, great. So the first change is on page 10 at the bottom. This was actually a change to the SAC membership.
Actually, I'm sorry every page for me says page 10.
Oh, me too. Well, guess we should change that then. It is on section 3.8.
Okay.
So and actually PDF page would be 3.
Great, thank you.
The school accountability also has a community representative, as I understand it. So my thought was if we're going to eliminate the community representative from the board, we should remove that from the SAC as well. Robin, can you confirm that that's a current requirement of SAC?
Yeah, like we don't have a community member on SAC. I didn't even know that was a requirement. So yeah, we don't have one.
Yeah. It says one adult member of an organization of parents recognized by the school. I don't even know what that means.
I mean, I guess you could say, Chris, we have a board member on it. So we have one board member on it. So one adult member of an organization of parents. The board is an organization of parents, so the board rep would be that
Yeah.
person, right?
Maybe the change there is one member of the board of representatives.
That's what we should do, because that actually is what we want, right?
Okay. So yeah, that's fine with me. So the change there, the proposed change would be to change that so that it says at least one, but not more than 2. Because if we have more than 2, then it would create a board meeting. So at least 1, but not more than 2 members of the MPA board.
Yeah, and I guess you could say board, if you wanted to, a board and other organizations recognized by the school. I suppose you could have a PTA representative on there. We haven't, but we could. So either keep it with board or just say at least one board member.
Yeah. I think board is is consistent with how we've treated it so far. So yeah. Okay. So we would actually then not make the change on the previous page from 6 to 5 members. We would leave it at 6 members. And then this paragraph D would change to reference a board member. Okay. The next change is to section 4.6, which is PDF page 7, going into page 8. This is the primary reason that I wanted to reopen the bylaws. As everyone knows, we've struggled to recruit a community member this year. We haven't had one basically since Terry resigned last year. We've put out announcements, we've tried to get people to apply, and it's just been very difficult to fill that board seat. And we've been functioning as a board with only 8 members for all of this year and part of last year. And in my view, well, one, it's very difficult for when a board only has an even number of members. You really should have an odd number so that there's a tiebreaker vote for any close votes. We rarely have those kinds of votes, so it hasn't really functioned to inhibit our activities this year. But my thought was if we're going to omit the community member seat, that we should then also consider reducing the parent seat by 1 in order to keep the board an odd number. So we would reduce from 9 members to 7 members. There's an additional benefit to that, which is that if there are 7 members, there are 6 parent slots and 1 teacher slot, which means that the parent slots would be 2 in each year. Currently, with 9 members on the board, we have some years where we have 3 parent slots that are up for that need to be filled, and some years where there are 2 spots that need to be filled. And so we're constantly kind of changing between having more experience on the board versus less experience on the board. And with this year, we have 3 members leaving the board. So just recognizing that having to fill 2 seats gives us more stability and ability to plan ahead and to fill those seats with quality applicants and to recruit. So that was my thinking on that. Open to input, changes, disagreement. Any thoughts?
I think these all make sense, and I think they're thoughtful changes. You know, it'd be one thing if we had community members that were lined up, but we've worked hard to fill that position, and we've not been able to do that. And I sort of agree, like just the challenges. I think it does need to be an odd number for the reasons that you outlined. And I think having sort of continuity in terms of just 2 new board members every session makes a lot of sense. I think I can't really see any reason why it would make sense to have more board members one year than others. It's all thoughtful changes.
Emily, is there any update on where we stand with candidates after the push last week?
Yeah.
As of right now, and Adam, maybe you can verify, I believe we have 3 candidates.
I think we may have as many as 5 by tomorrow.
Oh, that's great.
And maybe even more.
Okay.
I've heard from at least 2 people who said that they intend to submit applications.
Could it just be a promotional issue? I'm devil's advocate here. So.
Well,
Sure. And I think then the response would be if we kept 3, then we'd have to convert the community member spot to another parent spot. So we'd have to figure that out. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I think it's
So if we drop the community member, it brings us to 8, which we don't want even. That'll be a nightmare.
exactly.
But Gary dropped by today and we were just chatting about this, and he really said 7's the optimal number based on his experience.
Yeah.
You know,
so if Gary said it, I'm
it must be
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, I
because
think there is
there's
research on
different
this.
words.
I think Becca was talking about there's some research on this that the ideal size of a board is smaller is better in some ways.
Yeah, the ideal group size, if you really want to make meaningful change and have everybody in the group feel like they're valuable members, is actually 6.
Hmm.
And so I think with 7, whatever, that's fine, because people will need to go on vacation or somebody might be sick or whatever. And so I think seven's a great number to make sure that we always have at least five. With an emphasis that everybody is important and you do need to come to the meetings, so that they're not getting rescheduled endlessly because there's only 4 people who can come. So if each person takes on more, I am important, I think that could be helpful. And I think just having, when we have smaller meetings, they just feel like they're more engaging and we interact with each other a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't want to close doors if there's people knocking on them, but yeah, I also think more is not necessarily always better. But Justin, open to
Yeah.
your thoughts too. Yeah.
No, and I'm just presenting it for thought. I mean, I don't want anybody to say we rushed this idea, and I don't think we have. And we were in quite the predicament 4 days ago.
Yep.
So I think it is ideal. I think we have to be realistic that if we don't get committed board members who can't make meetings regularly, you will miss quorums, and then you have an issue. So, but again, you could always have another meeting to add it back to if we need to pump it back up. But I think there's probably a disconnect in the communication. If we saw that many applications come in, and I'm facing it in my own world, emails fall into spam folders. Text messages get deleted as I don't know who you're from, who this is from. It's just a hard world to communicate in, and I guess jamming some flyers in people's faces was was effective. So that's good, though. I mean, that worked. So
I also think just discussing that the why behind the board, right? Like, we presented it some, but I think it was really a heartfelt push for why the board's so important to protect the school, in the model. I think that's important.
Good job, Adam. That letter was wonderful.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Emily helped with that. She tweaked some stuff, but and honestly, I had a talk with Robin about this today. I think the board needs to do more direct outreach to the community. I think clearly that was meaningful to some people. I got a lot of feedback about that, and I just think that at the end of the day, it's easy to ignore emails that look like they're like what's going to be in them, and so I just think just stepping outside of that might be helpful. I am also. I pulled up to school today and I saw the new marquee, and I was so excited about that. And it's beautiful, but I think the one in between, as you pull into the car line too, that's a perfect place for doing this kind of stuff, for saying now accepting board applications. I think we just didn't have the channels that were as beneficial as they could have been. And part of that was my fault too. I'm sorry. Last 3 weeks, I was out of town for 2 weeks. One of them was spring break, and I just, I did not push hard. It was my responsibility to push hard on getting people to apply. And so I'm glad this worked in the end, but I'm sorry I didn't get to that until it was after the original deadline.
No, I think you did. I think you did everything you needed to do. And I think it just ultimately just required shoving paper in faces. And that's fine. If that's what it takes, that's what we'll do. Right. So.
And the other marquee will be there tomorrow.
Yes. Can't wait.
Hopefully not during car line.
That's right. Great. I'm in favor of all of the proposed changes.
Okay. I can scroll through the rest of it just really quick too. So these changes were basically to just conform with the idea that we would be eliminating the community members spot. And then we had already, this was kind of redundant. This last sentence here was redundant because we had already said that the teacher representative has 1 year. So just kind of streamlining that section. This actually, this is a little bit unrelated maybe, but I thought this was maybe this language on page 10, at the top of PDF page 10. I thought this was maybe a vestige of when we used to have in-person meetings, because it's talking about that you need prior approval to attend via telephone or video conference, and that's the exception, and all directors shall make a reasonable attempt to personally appear at all board meetings and special meetings. My thought in taking this out was just, we meet mostly virtually anyway now, so I don't think there's a need to stress that, you know, that telephone and video conferencing is the exception, because it's not really anymore. So that was my only thought there. Ted pointed out that if we do have an in-person meeting, we may want to have the option to for board members to attend a personal or an in-person meeting virtually. And so we might want language in there to address that. I'm sort of the mindset that, like, we can address those scenarios as they come up. There's no need to have it in necessarily in the bylaws. And I also wouldn't want to have something in the bylaws that would discourage people from attending an in-person meeting when we have those, because I do think they're important. And so my proposal would be to take this paragraph out entirely.
Emily, is there any place else in the document that talks about making best efforts to participate in meetings? And do we have any guidelines on number of meetings missed invokes at least a discussion of the board on whether we need to find a replacement board member?
I believe that there is, and I'm not remembering exactly where, but I believe there is I think it's
Page 10.
2 meetings. If anyone else can search the document to try to find that. I believe that the
I think I
limit,
got it.
the expected limit is 2 meetings, that board members can miss 2 meetings.
Is that per year or?
Per year.
I think it's per year.
Okay.
I don't know how much that is enforced, or if it has ever been
It's
enforced, but
hard.
I thought it was somewhere in here that it was 2 meetings per year.
It's a hard thing to enforce, and no one wants to be in that position. But
Yep.
if you have just a completely absent member who never participates, the board has to move forward, because then you have your quorum issue, right? Then you're having a hard time hitting quorum. And I think it's under 4.7 terms of directors.
Maybe, let's see, 4.7.
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking under, I'm referencing just 2.
Here it is. It's 4.12. Regular meetings at the bottom of that.
4.12. Let's see.
Additional regular
Here we go.
meetings will be held monthly, and directors are required to attend each meeting subject to excused absences provided in advance by the president, which, except in extenuating circumstances, shall not be more than 2 times in 1 calendar year per director.
Yep, that's it.
There's no
good.
statement in there for what the recourse will be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess
Yeah,
Draw
they're
and
in
quartering.
violation.
there's a removal. So section 4.11 is about removal of a board member by petition, and then actually 4.9 talks about termination for cause. Cause is unethical conduct or other conduct reasonably determined by the board of 2/3, by a vote of 2/3 of the board to be sufficient to justify removal. And then, so the board itself can remove members under 4.9. To me, that seems like it gives the board some discretion, because it's any conduct reasonably determined by a vote of 2/3 to be sufficient to justify removal.
Yeah, I think somewhere in that gap is a discussion that's had and then a decision made, to terminate.
Yeah.
But
And then the
that's a long
community,
bridge. Yeah.
the community members could submit a removal by petition to remove someone. So I think that would be the enforcement mechanism.
Okay.
I think
I
it
just
would
wanna
have
make
to
sure
be
that
pretty
didn't remove it.
egregious.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's happened before. I think sometimes people sign up for things and then realize they have a lot on their plate. And as far as I'm concerned, like, it's fine as long as we can plan ahead and plan around absences. And most, if not all, the members of this board are pretty good at letting me know when they can't make a meeting. I don't believe we've ever had to reschedule a meeting because of a lack of a quorum. I could be wrong on that, but. And we have additional flexibility with remote meetings that, we didn't have when it was in person.
Right. No, I just want to make sure that one paragraph wasn't wiping the only reference to terms for the board to be able to control that, but it looks like that is clearly met in 412. So good, yeah.
And I can't recall if there were other changes.
Just
Other than that signature.
so right now in several, like a quorum is 2/3. With only 7 members, that's at least 5. That means only 2 people can be absent from any meeting. And I suppose that probably still makes sense.
I thought that, so we have to have a quorum to hold the meeting, but then a vote can usually pass with only a majority, a simple majority. I think the 2/3 refers to things like removing a board member, or I don't know what else that would qualify as that, but the 2/3 only applies to certain actions of the board, not necessarily the day-to-day. The day-to-day would still be majority vote.
Majority. Okay, but to be
It's just
present.
majority quorum too for the meeting, so
Okay.
section for that, yeah, so we'd still
Okay.
need 4.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, because it's half plus 1, right? So 3.5, 4, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. I think those are all the changes. If anyone has any final comments or things they want to raise, could do that now.
Thanks for taking the pen and the walkthrough, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you, Emily.
Okay, I think if someone wants to put this up for a vote.
Okay. Would it just be simply, I would like to motion to accept the red line changes in the bylaws and make the edits per the discussion and notations in the article provided, in the bylaws provided.
It would be that simple, I believe.
Then that's what I said.
All right, lucky for you, I started typing as you started talking.
I could hear you clacking away there, Rebecca.
Yes. Okay. And give me 1 sec to finish this out, and then we can get the
Yeah, go ahead.
second.
Do you need a second too, Emily?
document. Okay.
I second.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we do need a vote. So Adam
Yes.
and Christine,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Justin.
Yes.
I am a yes, and Ted.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay. Thanks for your
Rebecca.
flexibility, everyone.
Rebecca, you caught Adam was the second on that?
I
know we-
did, yeah.
Oh,
It's
good.
easier when Adam comes to a meeting because I think he's designated himself as the second.
Yeah, I was gonna-
Secondary seconder.
I know you beat me to the motion in the first place.
I felt bad. I asked so many questions of Emily.
No,
Like
that's,
some kind of like cross-examination.
That's
I
right.
know.
That's right. She's used to this.
No,
She's
I
done it.
think
She's
that's
a
great.
lawyer.
I don't think we should make changes like this without discussion and questions and input. And so I think this is all a very useful conversation, and I appreciate it.
No, you did a great job. Bylaws are never easy to
Whew.
make changes to, and this makes a lot of sense. But hey, on the other side of this coin, it sounds like we got more candidates than we need, which is wonderful. So
Yeah, I think having a good selection pool to choose from is always a good thing. So,
Yeah. absolutely. Great job, team.
Yeah.
all right.
Good job.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Great.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.